What is EMDR? EMDR is a therapy that is used to help people work through stress, trauma, and PTSD. Many people find it helpful when they feel stuck, triggered, or reactive in ways that they can't control after they've experienced stress and trauma in their lives. EMDR helps those responses shift over time so that life starts to feel more manageable again. I'm an EMDR therapist, and I've been so fortunate to see the benefits of this trauma treatment with the clients that I serve. Oh, and if you don't know me yet, real quick, I'm Dr. Jenny Hughes, a trauma psychologist and founder of the Brave Trauma Therapist Collective. In my work as a trauma therapist, one of the most confusing things my clients share with me about trauma recovery is realizing that time alone doesn't always fix things. People often assume that if something happened years ago, or if they've already talked about it, then their reactions should have settled by now. They should just be over it. And then when they're not, there's often a lot of self-blame. People tell themselves, I should be over this, or other people have been through worse. Why am I still bothered? Or why is my body still reacting like this? The important thing to know is that these reactions are not a failure to cope. They don't mean that you're not strong enough. They're a sign that the nervous system learned something during a really overwhelming experience and hasn't had a chance to fully update yet. Trauma isn't just about what happened. It's about how the experience was stored in the brain and body at the time. And when something is too much, too fast, or happens when we don't have enough support, the system shifts into survival mode. And survival mode is really good at keeping us alive, but it's not all that great at letting us rest once the danger has passed. A lot of people who end up considering EMDR have already done traditional therapy. They've talked through what happened. They understand the context. They might even have a lot of insight. And still, their body reacts. Their heart races. Their muscles tense. They go numb. They get overwhelmed or shut down in situations that don't logically feel dangerous. So many clients have said to me, I get it in my head. I just don't know why I don't believe it. It's like my head and my heart are totally disconnected. And this is where it helps to understand that trauma lives in more than one part of the brain, and it lives in the body too. Some parts of the brain where trauma is stored work with language and meaning, while other parts are focused on threat, sensation, and survival. And the literal cells of our bodies carry trauma that we've lived and that our ancestors lived. And talk therapy can be super helpful, especially for understanding ourselves and making sense of our experiences. But insight alone doesn't always reach the parts of the brain and body that learn to survive under threat. EMDR was developed to help bridge that gap, and it works by helping the brain process experiences that weren't fully processed at the time that they happened. When an experience is overwhelming, it can get stored in kind of a raw, unintegrated form. And instead of becoming a memory that feels finished, it stays linked to strong emotions, physical sensations, and beliefs about safety, control, self-worth. That's why something small in the present can trigger a reaction from the past that feels much bigger than the situation calls for. The nervous system isn't responding to now, it's responding to way back then. And EMDR helps those experiences move from feeling immediate, right now, and intrusive to feeling more distant and resolved. People still remember what happened. We're not erasing memories. What changes is how the memory lives in the body. Over time, it carries less charge, it takes up less space, and it stops running the show. One of the things that EMDR is most known for is bilateral stimulation. In fact, the acronym EMDR stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. A mouthful that you never have to remember, and that's referring to this concept of bilateral stimulation, or BLS, as part of the healing process. I'm doing this because the most classic form of bilateral stimulation are guided eye movements. But you can also do tapping, You can have alternating sounds on headphones. You can have a combination of any and all of those things as well. And it can look kind of funny from the outside, and it's okay to be skeptical about it at first. What matters isn't the type of BLS necessarily, but what it's doing inside. Bilateral stimulation creates this gentle rhythm that engages both sides of the brain while attention is remaining anchored in the present. This seems to help the brain make new connections and integrate information that was previously stuck. The experience of bilateral stimulation also does something called taxing working memory, which is a fancy term that means it's taking up a certain amount of your attention right here in the moment as you're thinking about and processing something traumatic. And so it's basically distracting your brain and body so you don't go into that full blown trauma response that you're used to. Many people think that EMDR is just the bilateral stimulation, but a well-trained EMDR therapist is going to spend a lot of time on preparing you for the work, helping you to build up skills and resources, and is going to pace each of the 8 phases of EMDR so that it matches your needs, okay? And all throughout, the work is collaborative. Your therapist is tracking how you as the client are responding moment by moment, and adjustments are made constantly to keep the process tolerable and healthfully contained. Now, a lot of people are nervous about starting EMDR, understandably, and especially if you've been living with trauma for a long time, or if you've been through all the therapies and nothing has worked. A lot of things people worry about are losing control, becoming overwhelmed, or being pushed into memories they're not ready to face. Some worry that if they open up the door to trauma, they won't be able to close it again. And those fears make sense. They're protective. And EMDR should never involve forcing someone to relive trauma in detail. Please hear that. And when you, as the client, are doing EMDR, you don't even need to give graphic descriptions of your experiences. You don't need to remember everything. The goal isn't catharsis. It's to metabolize the past, move through the beginning, middle, and end so you can integrate it into the present. And a big part of that means staying oriented to the present, which is the therapist's job to help you stay within a window of trauma work that feels manageable, not overwhelming. Now, for therapists watching this, it's important to say this really clearly. EMDR is not a shortcut, and it's not a technique that works independent of the relationship. The quality of attunement, the therapist's ability to track nervous system cues, and the therapist's own regulation all matter. EMDR works best when it's embedded in a thoughtful, relational approach to trauma work. Preparation and consent are not optional. Neither is support for the therapist doing the work. That is necessary. And when EMDR is practiced well, it respects both the client's capacity and the therapist's limits. If EMDR feels destabilizing, it's a signal to slow down or adjust, not to push harder. EMDR can be a great fit for you if you notice that your reactions feel bigger than the present moment, or if your body seems to be responding to danger that isn't really happening right now. It can be helpful if you've gained insight after your experiences of stress and trauma, but still feel super activated, numb, or stuck in patterns that don't make sense to you. That said, EMDR isn't always the right starting point. Sometimes stabilization, resourcing, or other forms of therapy are needed first. Timing matters, readiness matters, and support matters. EMDR isn't an identity. It's not a cure-all. It's a tool. And like any tool, it works best when it's used intentionally and with care. If you're curious about EMDR, the next step is usually a conversation. And that might be with your current therapist or with a therapist trained in EMDR to talk about whether it's a good fit for your needs wherever you are right now. And if you're a trauma therapist watching this and considering EMDR training, I'd invite you to think not just about the model, but about the kind of support that you want around you as you do this work. Trauma therapy is demanding. EMDR can be so powerful, but it's most sustainable when practiced with a community of trauma therapists around you who provide space for reflection, consultation, and being human. And whether you're a client looking for a therapist or a therapist looking for community, head to braveproviders.com so we can help.